Welcome to our exploration of rural economics. Today we'll dive deep into rural credit, the critical capital that fuels growth in our agriculture and rural livelihoods. Imagine you're a farmer, investing in seeds, fertilizers, and equipment long before any crop comes to market. This waiting period, known as the gestation period, can be challenging since income only comes much later. So, how do farmers manage their expenses during this time? They borrow from various sources, both formal and informal, to meet not just agricultural costs like seeds and fertilizers, but also crucial family expenses such as marriages and religious ceremonies. This credit is not just money, it's the lifeline that ensures the rural economy keeps moving forward. Throughout this lecture, we'll look at the evolution of rural credit systems, especially how things have changed since independence, and explore how government and community initiatives have helped empower rural populations. Hold on tight, as this journey connects your daily life to the big picture of India's economic development. Now pause for 20 seconds and think. Why is timely availability of rural credit critical for improving farm productivity and rural welfare? Great. Timely credit helps farmers invest in the right inputs at the right time, avoiding crop failures and enabling sustainable income generation. Without access to credit, farmers may be forced to miss important planting windows or buy poor quality inputs, reducing their productivity. Let's step back in time to understand rural credit before the independence of India. Back then, the rural financial scenario was dominated by moneylenders and traders. They exploited the vulnerability of small and marginal farmers and landless laborers by charging exorbitantly high interest rates, trapping them in a never-ending debt cycle. This had a major adverse effect on rural socioeconomic conditions. A major shift came post-1969 when India embraced a social banking and multi-agency approach, aiming to democratize credit and reduce dependence on exploitative moneylenders. The establishment of the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, or NABARD, in 1982 was a watershed moment. NABARD became the apex institution coordinating rural financing activities, ensuring that credit reached the farmers in a more organized, cheaper, and fair manner. These reforms laid the foundation for more equitable growth in rural India and helped integrate rural credit into the mainstream financial system, making it more accessible. Pause for 25 seconds and reflect. How did the creation of NABARD help transform rural credit accessibility compared to before? Well thought answer. NABARD provided institutional support, coordinated multiple agencies, and introduced more formal lending practices, which reduced farmers' dependence on informal high-interest sources, thus fostering financial inclusion and rural development. In today's rural economy, the banking system consists of multiple agencies working together to meet rural credit needs efficiently. Commercial banks, the usual banking institutions, extend credit for agricultural and allied activities, as well as non-agricultural, rural enterprises. Regional rural banks, or RRBS, have a more targeted focus serving their regional pockets with specialized knowledge. Cooperatives play a crucial role as member-owned institutions that provide credit particularly to smallholder farmers. However, many poor households remained excluded due to their inability to provide collateral. Here comes the transformative role of self-help groups or SHGs. These are groups of rural poor, often women, who pool small savings and provide microcredit to members. The absence of collateral requirements and easy repayment schedules makes self-help groups crucial for financial inclusion. As of May 2019, impressively, nearly 6 crore women across India have joined approximately 54 lakh SHGs. These groups promote thrift and support self-employment efforts, fostering rural entrepreneurship and empowerment. Pause for 20 seconds and analyze. Why are self-help groups more effective in reaching poor rural women than traditional banks? Excellent analysis. Self-help groups rely on social collateral instead of physical assets, operate within communities where trust is high, and provide manageable credit amounts repayable in small installments, making loans accessible to the poorest sections who are excluded by formal banking norms. Let's zoom into how microcredit works through self-help groups pivotal in empowering rural women. Members contribute small amounts regularly, say 100 rupees each, which accumulate as a thrift fund within the group. From this pooled money, loans are provided to members who repay in small installments with reasonable interest rates. This cyclic flow keeps the fund alive and allows catering to more members over time. Each SHG also receives an external community investment support fund of around 2.5 lakh rupees, which supplements its internal resources, enabling micro-entrepreneurship ventures like tailoring, dairy farming, or vegetable cultivation. Consider this real-life example. A woman in a SHG contributed 100 rupees monthly, gathered 6,000 rupees thrift over 6 months, took a 5,000 rupees loan to start a tailoring business, and repaid it in 10 installments at a 12% interest. This not only improved her family's income, but also boosted her confidence and social standing. These programs, while mostly consumption-oriented, have immense potential for productive uses. They make credit accessible to the neglected rural poor, fostering financial independence and women's empowerment. Pause for 25 seconds and consider, what might be the challenges in shifting borrowings from consumption to productive uses in SHGs? Great reflection. Challenges include lack of business skills, market access, irregular income flows, and social pressures limiting investment in productive activities. Addressing these requires training, infrastructure, and supportive policies. Now, let's explore an inspiring initiative named Kudumbashri, which means prosperity of families in Malayalam. This program, implemented in Kerala, specifically targets poor women, organizing them into thrift and credit societies to encourage savings and financial independence. Kudumbashri started in 1995 with humble beginnings, but quickly grew by mobilizing community members to save small amounts regularly. Through disciplined thrift, these societies amassed 1 crore rupees in savings, a remarkable achievement that earned them the distinction of being the largest informal bank in Asia by participation in savings volume. This remarkable collective power gives women financial independence, which translates into social empowerment. You can observe in the image how community meetings foster trust and joint responsibility, which are pillars of success for financial inclusion. I encourage you to visit www.kudumbashri.org to explore various programs, strategies, and success stories from this movement. In your class discussions, reflect on what factors, social cohesion, effective leadership, tailored financial products, may have contributed to their success. Pause for 30 seconds. Think about how community trust enhances financial inclusion in poor rural areas compared to impersonal banking. Well thought. Community trust and peer pressure reduce default risk, improve loan recovery, and encourage regular savings, overcoming barriers posed by collateral requirements and creditworthiness criteria that formal banks impose. Rural banking expansion following the Green Revolution has been a driving force for rural prosperity. It enhanced the incomes and employment opportunities in both farming and non-farming rural sectors. Institutional credit played a significant role in eradicating famines and ensured food security, as reflected in the government's vast buffer stocks of grains. However, rural banking is not free from serious challenges. While commercial banks made strides in deposit mobilization, other formal institutions like cooperatives struggled to build a culture of deposits and faced difficulties in loan recovery. Agricultural loans have consistently exhibited high default rates, raising questions about the sustainability of lending practices. This slide shows a balanced overview of these achievements and shortcomings, illustrating that while the factory of rural banking runs, some wheels occasionally creak. Now pause for 25 seconds and analyze. What factors contribute to high agricultural loan defaults and how can this be mitigated? Excellent reasoning. Causes include unpredictable monsoons, price volatility, poor financial literacy, and inadequate crop insurance. Mitigation requires better risk management tools, timely credit, farmer education, and flexible repayment systems aligned with crop cycles. Let's clear a common misconception that farmers deliberately refuse to repay their loans. In reality, many face uncontrollable challenges such as crop failures caused by droughts, floods, or pest attacks. These natural calamities wipe out expected income, leaving farmers with no resources to repay. Moreover, rising input costs like fertilizers and seeds add to financial pressure. Market price fluctuations often leave farmers selling at low prices or sometimes facing glut without a market. Institutional weaknesses such as lack of adequate extension services and delayed credit delivery worsen the situation. Thus, default rates reflect complex economic vulnerabilities, not just unwillingness. Understanding their plight encourages better policymaking and financial designs that build farmer resilience. Pause for 20 seconds. Think about how insurance and improved market information could reduce agricultural loan defaults. Great economic insight. Crop insurance compensates losses, protecting farmers' repayment capacity, while real-time market information helps farmers decide when and where to sell produce for better returns. The economic reforms of the 1990s kick-started large-scale changes, but also led to a slowdown in rural credit expansion. To counter this and boost inclusion, the Indian government launched Jan Dhan Yojana, a landmark program aiming to provide universal access to banking. Now, more than 50 crore adults, especially from rural and marginalized communities, have bank accounts. These accounts offer accident insurance coverage worth rupees 1 to 2 lakh, overdraft facilities up to rupees 10,000, and direct transfer of government wages and pensions like MGN-REGA payments and old age pensions. This integration between banking and Social Security has helped inculcate saving habits and channel funds efficiently towards productive and welfare activities in rural areas. The chart here illustrates remarkable growth in account openings. The flow diagram shows how these accounts link to financial empowerment infrastructures. Pause for 25 seconds. How has Jan Dhan Yojana changed the landscape of rural banking and credit availability? Incredible observations. It has increased transparency, reduced leakages in government schemes, empowered women in poor households by giving them access to financial tools, and improved credit mobilization for rural development. Rural credit is much more than just financial transactions. It's a powerful driver of socio-economic development. When farmers and rural entrepreneurs obtain credit, they invest in better technologies and inputs that boost agricultural productivity and diversify economic activities beyond farming, like small-scale industries and services. This economic diversification stimulates employment in rural areas, reducing migration pressures to cities. Additionally, access to credit improves the ability of rural households to invest in education and healthcare, raising living standards and building human capital. How credit uplifts multiple facets of village life, from farms to family well-being. Credit translates into tangible development outcomes. Pause for 20 seconds and reflect. How does rural credit contribute to reducing poverty in the countryside? Exactly. By providing income opportunities, smoothing consumption, and enabling investments in health and education, credit improves resilience and breaks the cycle of poverty that afflicts many rural families. Formal rural credit institutions face significant challenges in reaching the poorest. A key barrier is the requirement of collateral, without which banks hesitate to lend. This excludes large numbers of small-scale farmers and landless laborers who lack land or assets. Moreover, although numerous formal credit agencies exist, their efforts are often isolated from the broader social and community development context. This lack of integration reduces the effectiveness of credit in addressing multidimensional rural needs. On top of this, institutional issues like low deposit mobilization and ineffective loan recovery destabilize financial sustainability, deterring expansion into rural hinterlands. These intertwined problems acting as bottlenecks in delivering equitable rural credit. Pause for 25 seconds. What institutional reforms could improve integration of rural credit with social development? Very insightful. Reforms could include strengthening self-help groups and cooperatives, linking credit with training and market access, adopting flexible lending based on social collateral, and improving technology-enabled financial services. Microcredit programs are designed to provide small loans to the marginalized poor who typically lack collateral and formal credit access. These loans facilitate income-generating activities and open pathways for financial independence. By focusing on women, microcredit helps promote savings culture, credit discipline, and self-employment ventures that raise family incomes and enhance social status. However, one critique is that many microcredit loans are used for consumption rather than for productive activities. This limits their potential to bring about sustainable economic upliftment. Nevertheless, microcredit remains a powerful tool for alleviating poverty and promoting gender equality. Pause for 20 seconds. Why might borrowers prefer consumption loans over production loans despite the latter's long-term benefits? Excellent points. Factors include immediate household needs, risk aversion, lack of business skills, and uncertainty in income from new ventures. Addressing these requires complementary support like training and market linkages. To overcome challenges in rural credit access, the government has launched several forward-looking initiatives. The Jan Dhan Yojana has been revolutionary in sweeping millions of rural poor into formal banking. Alongside bank accounts, accidental insurance and overdraft facilities offer financial security and flexibility to needy borrowers, reducing vulnerability to shocks. Support to self-help groups through the Community Investment Support Fund fuels their capacity to undertake viable income generation activities, further bridging credit gaps. These policy innovations demonstrate the government's commitment to inclusive growth by integrating welfare and finance. Pause to analyze for 20 seconds. How do insurance and overdraft facilities contribute to improving credit repayment rates among rural borrowers? Well-reasoned. They reduce default risks by cushioning borrowers during emergencies and cash flow mismatches, thereby promoting credit discipline and trust between banks and borrowers. As we conclude our journey through rural credit, remember that credit is the fuel that powers agricultural productivity and rural development in India. Its timely availability, delivered through a cohesive multi-agency framework, blending formal financial institutions with community-driven groups like SHGs, is fundamental. Looking forward requires us to focus on policy innovation, enhancing financial literacy so that rural borrowers can make informed choices, and deploying risk management tools like crop insurance. Empowering women remains a cornerstone in achieving inclusive growth. The future of rural credit lies in strengthening these interlinked components to build a resilient rural economy. The diagram here outlines a strategic flow depicting how combined policy and institutional actions translate into sustainable rural development. Pause and reflect for 30 seconds. Imagine you are the policymaker responsible for rural credit reform. What would your top 3 priorities be to ensure effective credit delivery? Fantastic reflections. Priorities often include increasing access to collateral-free credit, expanding financial literacy programs, linking credit with market access, and establishing robust monitoring and support systems.